Subscribe to Storylab for more stories. Now let's begin this one. Chapter 1. The Distance Between. Jeremiah Phillips stood at the edge of Camp Pendleton's shooting range, the Pacific wind carrying the sharp smell of gunpowder and sea salt. At 42, he carried himself with the practiced stillness of a man who'd learned long ago that economy of movement kept you alive. 20 years in the Marine Corps, the last 8 as a master sergeant leading force reconnaissance units, had carved away everything soft from both his body and his mind. His phone buzzed. A text from Emily, his 14-year-old daughter. "Dad, can I come stay with you this weekend? Please?" Jeremiah felt the familiar ache in his chest. 3 years since the divorce, and every message from Emily still felt like a lifeline thrown across an impossible distance. He typed back quickly. "Of course, sweetheart. I'll pick you up Friday after school." He pocketed the phone and turned to find Kyle Holt, his second-in-command, watching him with knowing eyes. Kyle was 36, built like a linebacker, with a mind sharp enough to have earned him a slot in intelligence if he hadn't preferred the field. "Emily," Kyle asked. "Yeah, want to come out this weekend?" "4th time this month." Kyle's tone carried no judgment, just observation. "Everything okay?" Jeremiah's jaw tightened. "Christine says everything's fine, but Emily keeps asking to come here more and more." "Your ex remarried?" "No, but she's been seeing someone for about 6 months. Guy named Shane Schroeder. Emily doesn't talk about him much." Kyle nodded slowly. "Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. They know when something's wrong before we do." "Yeah." Jeremiah watched the sun dip toward the horizon. "That's what worries me." The divorce had been inevitable, looking back. Christine Cooley, she'd taken back her maiden name within months, had married a 22-year-old Marine fresh out of officer training. She'd been 20, working as a medical receptionist in Oceanside, with dreams of starting a family and building a normal life. But normal was impossible with a man whose job description included infiltrate hostile territory and conduct direct action raids. Jeremiah had missed Emily's birth, trapped behind enemy lines in Helmand Province. He'd missed her first steps, her first day of school, countless Christmas mornings. He'd come home from deployments a stranger in his own house, carrying shadows Christine couldn't see and wounds he couldn't explain. The arguments started small. Christine wanted him to leave the Corps, take a desk job, be present. Jeremiah tried to explain that being a Marine wasn't what he did, it was who he was. The compromise never came. The distance between them grew until it became a chasm neither could cross. When they finally signed the papers, Christine had been reasonable about custody. She knew Jeremiah loved Emily fiercely, even if he struggled to show it the way a civilian father might. Joint custody, with Emily primarily living with Christine in Oceanside, while Jeremiah took her every other weekend and throughout the summer. For 2 years, it worked. Then Christine met Shane Schroeder. Friday afternoon, Jeremiah pulled up outside Christine's house in his black Ford F-250. The neighborhood was middle-class comfortable, tract homes with small yards, basketball hoops in driveways, American flags on porches. Christine's house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, the lawn slightly overgrown. Emily burst through the front door before he'd fully parked, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. She was growing up too fast, already taller than her mother, with Jeremiah's dark hair and Christine's expressive eyes. But something was different today. The smile she wore didn't quite reach those eyes. "Hey, Dad." She threw her arms around him, holding on longer than usual. "Hey, kiddo." He studied her face. "You okay?" "Yeah, just missed you." She pulled back, glancing at the house. "Can we go? Don't you want to say goodbye to your mom?" "She's not here. She's at Shane's place." Jeremiah felt a flicker of irritation. "She knew I was picking you up." "I know." Emily climbed into the truck quickly, as if eager to leave. As they pulled away, Jeremiah caught sight of a silver Dodge Charger parked across the street, its windows tinted dark. Something about it felt wrong, but before he could process the feeling, Emily was chattering about her week at school, and he let himself be pulled into her stories. That night, at his apartment on base, they ordered pizza and watched movies, their ritual. But Jeremiah noticed how Emily kept checking her phone, her expression tightening each time. "Something going on?" he asked during a commercial break. Emily hesitated. Mom's been acting weird lately. Weird how? She's just different. More nervous. Shane's around a lot now. Like all the time. You don't like him? Emily chose her words carefully. He's nice to me when Mom's around. But when she's not, she trailed off. Jeremiah's instincts, honed by years of reading enemy behavior, went on high alert. But when she's not, what? He just says weird things, like comments about how I look or what I'm wearing. And he has these friends who come over sometimes. They drink a lot and get loud. Has he ever touched you inappropriately? No, nothing like that. It's just the way he looks at me sometimes. It makes me uncomfortable. Jeremiah kept his voice level, though fury was building behind his ribs. Why haven't you told your mom? I tried. She said I was being dramatic. That Shane's just trying to be friendly, and I'm not giving him a chance. Emily's voice cracked. She really likes him, Dad. I don't want to ruin things for her. Emily, listen to me. Jeremiah turned to face her fully. Your safety and comfort are more important than anyone's feelings, including your mother's. If this guy makes you uncomfortable, that matters. Promise you won't make a big deal out of it. I don't want Mom to be mad at me. Jeremiah promised, but he was already planning. First thing Monday, he'd have a conversation with Christine. And if that didn't work, he'd find another way to handle Shane Schroeder. Chapter 2. Shadows in Plain Sight. Monday morning, Jeremiah called Christine before his first training session. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice distracted. Jeremiah, is Emily okay? She's fine. I dropped her at school an hour ago. We need to talk about Shane. A pause. What about him? Emily says he makes her uncomfortable. Says things that are inappropriate. Oh God, not this again. Christine's tone shifted to exasperation. She told me the same thing last week. Shane's been nothing but kind to her. She's just having trouble adjusting to me dating someone. That's not what this is. She said he comments on her appearance, the way she dresses. He told her she looked nice before school once. That's being polite, Jeremiah. You're reading malice into normal human interaction. My gut says otherwise. Your gut has been wrong before. The words landed like a slap. You see threats everywhere because that's what you're trained to do. But Shane is a good man. He works in automotive sales. He treats me well. And he's been patient with Emily even though she's been cold to him. Jeremiah gripped the phone tighter. Just keep an eye on the situation. That's all I'm asking. I am her mother. I don't need you telling me how to protect my daughter. Christine hung up. Jeremiah stood there for a long moment, staring at his phone. Then he opened a new message thread and typed a name. Thomas Faulkner. Tommy Faulkner was a staff sergeant in intelligence, a specialist in surveillance and information gathering. He was also someone who owed Jeremiah his life. Jeremiah had pulled him out of an ambush in Fallujah 7 years ago, taking shrapnel in the process. Need a favor. Personal matter. Got time for coffee? The response came within minutes. Always. Name the place. They met at a diner in Oceanside, Tommy sliding into the booth across from Jeremiah with his usual easy smile. He was lean and wiry, with the kind of forgettable face that made him perfect for intelligence work. What's going on? Tommy asked after they'd ordered. Jeremiah laid it out. Emily's discomfort, Christine's dismissal, his own instincts screaming danger. Tommy listened without interrupting, his expression growing serious. You want me to look into this Shane guy? Deep background. Everything. Employment, finances, criminal history, associates. I need to know who he is. If I find something, then I deal with it. Tommy nodded. Give me 72 hours. The call came on Thursday night. Jeremiah was reviewing training reports when his phone lit up with Tommy's number. Talk to me, Jeremiah answered. Shane Schroeder is bad news. Tommy's voice was grim. Real name is Shane Allen Schroeder, 38 years old. He does work in automotive sales, but that's mostly a front. Guy's got a juvenile record that was sealed, assault charges when he was 17. As an adult, he's been arrested twice for domestic violence. Once for possession with intent to distribute. Plea bargained down each time. Jeremiah's hand tightened on the phone. Current associates? That's where it gets interesting. He runs with a crew, Lowell Dodge and Guy Herrera. Both have records. Dodge did time for armed robbery, Herrera for aggravated assault. They're not major players, but they're connected to some nasty people. Word is they're into small-time drug distribution, maybe some loan sharking. And Christine has no idea. Apparently not. Schroeder's good at playing normal. Keeps his criminal shit separate from his legitimate life. Tommy paused. There's more. I found something on his social media. Hidden pretty well, but it's there. Pictures of teenage girls. Nothing illegal by itself, but the way he talks about them in private messages. Tommy's disgust was palpable. The guy's a predator, Jeremiah. He gravitates toward single mothers with daughters. The world went very still. Send me everything. Already done. Check your encrypted email. Tommy's voice softened. What are you going to do? Whatever I have to. Jeremiah spent the next 2 days building a case. Tommy's information was damning, but he needed more. He needed something concrete enough to force Christine to see the truth. He reached out to Ross Russell, another member of his unit who had friends in local law enforcement. Ross was 34, methodical and patient, with connections throughout Southern California's police departments. Can you give me current surveillance on Shane Schroeder? Jeremiah asked. Nothing official, just see if any of your buddies in Oceanside PD are watching him. Ross made some calls. The answer came back within hours. Oceanside PD had Schroeder on their radar as part of a larger investigation into drug distribution networks, but didn't have enough for an arrest yet. They were building a case. They're moving slow, Ross reported, trying to work their way up the chain. Schroeder's a middleman, not the prize. How long until they move? Could be months, maybe longer. Jeremiah didn't have months. Emily was living in that house, exposed to Schroeder and his associates. Every day was a risk. He made a decision. Friday afternoon, he called Christine again. I have information about Shane you need to see, he said without preamble. Jeremiah, please don't start. He has a criminal record. Domestic violence, drug charges. He runs with dangerous people. I have documentation. Does it matter? It's true. I can prove it. Silence. Then, where did you get this? Does it matter? It's true. I can prove it. You had someone investigate him? Christine's voice rose. You had no right. I have every right when it comes to Emily's safety. You're paranoid and controlling. This is exactly why we got divorced. But there was uncertainty creeping into her voice now. Send me what you have. Jeremiah did. An hour later, his phone rang. Some of this is sealed juvenile stuff, Christine said quietly. How did you even get it? I have resources. Christine, this man is dangerous. You need to end this relationship. I'll talk to him. Ask him about it. Don't. The word came out sharp. If he's as dangerous as I think, confronting him could escalate things. Just end it. Make up an excuse if you have to. I can handle my own relationships, Jeremiah. Can you? Because from where I'm standing, you're putting our daughter at risk for a man you barely know. Christine hung up again. But this time, Jeremiah thought he'd gotten through. He was wrong. Chapter 3. The Call. Saturday morning, Christine sent Jeremiah a terse message. I talked to Shane. He explained everything. Old mistakes, bad influences, but he's changed. I believe him. Please stop interfering in my life. Jeremiah stared at the message in disbelief. Schroeder had talked his way out of it. Of course he had. Predators were always charming, always had explanations. He tried calling. Christine didn't answer. He sent messages. No response. By Sunday, she'd blocked his number for everything except emergency contacts related to Emily. Kyle found him in the gym that evening, working out his frustration on a heavy bag. You look like you're about to kill someone, Kyle observed. Jeremiah threw a combination, jab, cross, hook, that made the bag swing violently. Christine won't listen. Schroeder's got her convinced he's reformed. So what's your play? I don't have one. I can't get a restraining order with what I have. It's all circumstantial. Can't prove immediate danger. All I can do is document everything and hope Christine sees sense before something happens. And Emily? She's supposed to come stay with me next weekend. I'll talk to her then. See if things have gotten worse. Kyle watched him throw another combination. You ever think about just taking her? Keeping her here? Every day. But that's kidnapping. I'd lose custody permanently, probably end up in prison. Then Emily would be stuck there with no one to protect her. System's fucked, Kyle muttered. Yeah, Jeremiah, I hit the bag again. But it's the system we have. The week dragged. Jeremiah threw himself into work. leading his unit through complex training scenarios, but his mind was always partially elsewhere. He called Emily every night, listening carefully to the tone of her voice, searching for signs of distress. Thursday night, she sounded strained. Mom and Shane had a fight. About you. What kind of fight? Shane said you were trying to ruin their relationship, that you were spreading lies about him. Mom defended him, but she seemed upset. Then some of Shane's friends came over, and they all got drunk. I stayed in my room. Lowell and Guy? How did you, yeah? Those guys. They're creepy, Dad. They stare at me. Listen to me carefully. Keep your door locked when they're there. If you feel unsafe at any point, you call 911 first, then you call me. Understand? You're scaring me. Good. I need you scared enough to be careful. Promise me, Emily. I promise. Friday evening, Jeremiah was in a planning session with his command when his phone buzzed. Emily's name on the screen. He excused himself and answered. Hey, kiddo. I'm about to leave to pick you. Dad. Her voice was barely a whisper. Wrong. Everything about it was wrong. Dad, I need help. Jeremiah was already moving, heading for his truck. What's happening? Mom went out. Shane's here with Lowell and Guy. They're drunk. Really drunk. And her breath hitched. They're talking about me. Shane said. He said since I caused problems, I owe him. They're betting on who gets to spend the night with me. In my room. The world crystallized into perfect, terrible clarity. Jeremiah's training took over, suppressing the rage, threatening to overwhelm him, channeling it into cold calculation. Where are you right now? Bathroom. I locked the door. They don't know I called you. Good girl. Listen. Go to your bedroom. Lock that door. Push your dresser in front of it if you can. I need you to barricade yourself in. Dad, Shane said you're thousands of miles away. That you can't help me. Her voice broke. I heard one of them laugh. He said you abandoned me. I didn't abandon you, and I'm 23 minutes away. But I need you to be strong for me. Can you do that? Yes. Go. Lock yourself in. I'm coming. He heard her moving, heard the bathroom door open. Then a male voice in the background, slurred and ugly. Where you going, sweetie? Party's just getting started. 10 minutes, Jeremiah told her, even though it was impossible. Hold on for 10 minutes. He hung up and immediately called Kyle. Get everyone, the whole unit. Christine's address. Right now. What's happening? Emily's in immediate danger. 3 adult males, intoxicated, making sexual threats. I need overwhelming force. Kyle didn't hesitate. On it. 5 minutes. Jeremiah's next call was to Ross. Contact your buddies at Oceanside PD. Tell them there's a sexual assault in progress at Christine Cooley's address. Tell them Schroeder and his crew are there. Tell them to roll every car they have. Done. Jeremiah was in his truck now, engine roaring to life. He pulled his personal sidearm from the lockbox under his seat. A Sig Sauer P226 he'd carried through 3 combat deployments. Checked the magazine. 15 rounds, 1 in the chamber. He drove like hell was chasing him, blowing through stop signs, hitting speeds that would have gotten him arrested if anyone had tried to stop him. His phone rang. Kyle. We're rolling. 8 vehicles, 22 personnel. ETA to target. 6 minutes from now. I'll be there in 4. Wait for us, Jeremiah. Don't go in alone. Can't promise that. Christine's quiet suburban street had never seen anything like the convoy that descended on it 4.5 minutes later. Jeremiah's truck led the way, followed by a procession of military vehicles, tactical trucks, personal vehicles, even a Humvee that Kyle had somehow requisitioned. 22 Marines in various stages of uniform, many still in workout clothes, all armed and looking like the wrath of God made flesh. Jeremiah barely had his truck in park before he was out, weapon drawn, moving toward the house. He could see light through the windows, hear music playing too loud. Kyle appeared at his shoulder. Slow down. We do this right. My daughter is counting on you to be smart. We go in hard, but we go in smart. Jeremiah took a breath. Let the training reassert itself. Ross and Thomas cover the back. Kyle, you're with me front door. Everyone else, establish a perimeter. No one leaves. They moved with practiced precision. Jeremiah reached the front door, tried the handle. Locked. He didn't bother knocking, just kicked it in, the frame splintering with a satisfying crack. The scene inside was exactly what Emily had described. Shane Schroeder, Lowell Dodge, and Guy Herrera were in the living room, bottles and glasses everywhere, poker chips on the coffee table. All three men turned, shock and fear flooding their faces as they saw armed Marines pouring through the door. Shane recovered first, trying to bluster. "What the hell is this? You can't just—" "Shut up." Jeremiah's voice was arctic. "Where's my daughter?" "Your daughter? I don't know what you're talking about. Christine's not here, and—" Jeremiah crossed the room in 3 strides and put his gun under Shane's chin. "I'm going to ask one more time. Where is Emily?" "Upstairs," Shane gasped. "Her room. But we didn't do anything, I swear." Kyle moved past them, taking the stairs 3 at a time. Jeremiah heard him call out, "Emily, it's Kyle Holt, your dad's friend. You're safe now." A door opened. Jeremiah heard his daughter's voice, shaking but alive. "Where's my dad?" "Right here, sweetheart." Jeremiah didn't take his eyes off Shane. "Kyle's going to bring you down. Don't look at these men." Kyle appeared at the top of the stairs with Emily, who looked small and terrified. He kept himself between her and the 3 men, guiding her quickly to the front door where other Marines waited to take her outside. Only when she was out of the house did Jeremiah remove the gun from Shane's throat. He holstered it, then grabbed Shane by the shirt and hauled him to his feet. "You made a mistake," Jeremiah said quietly. "You threatened my daughter. You thought I was too far away, that I couldn't touch you. You were wrong." Shane's earlier bravado was gone, replaced by genuine terror. Looking at Jeremiah's face, he saw his own death reflected back. "Look, man, we were just drunk, just talking shit. We weren't going to actually—" Jeremiah hit him. One punch, perfectly placed, breaking Shane's nose and dropping him to the floor. Blood poured down Shane's face as he curled up, whimpering. "Get them out of here," Jeremiah told Kyle. "Police are on the way." As if on cue, sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Jeremiah walked outside to find Emily wrapped in a blanket someone had found, surrounded by protective Marines who were treating her like she was their own daughter. When she saw him, she broke free and ran into his arms. "I knew you'd come," she sobbed into his chest. "I knew it. Always," he promised, holding her tight. "I'll always come for you." The Oceanside police arrived 3 minutes later, multiple units with lights blazing. The lead officer took in the scene, military vehicles, armed personnel, 3 men in the house looking like they'd been through a war, and wisely decided to sort it all out at the station. Shane, Lowell, and Guy were arrested on charges of making terroristic threats against a minor, child endangerment, and public intoxication. The fact that Oceanside PD already had them under investigation for drug-related activities meant they weren't going anywhere soon. Christine arrived 20 minutes later, panic-stricken. Whatever Shane had told her about where he'd be that night, it clearly wasn't getting drunk with my criminal buddies and terrorizing your daughter. The scene that followed was ugly. Christine tried to defend Shane at first. There must be a misunderstanding, until one of the officers pulled her aside and explained exactly what had happened. What her daughter had heard. What would have happened if Jeremiah hadn't arrived? Jeremiah watched the realization hit her, watched her face crumble. She looked at him across the lawn, and for the first time in years, he saw real remorse in her eyes. But it was too late for apologies. Emily was standing next to him, still shaking, and nothing Christine said would change what had almost happened under her roof. Chapter 4. Aftermath and Awakening. The Oceanside Police Department's interview rooms smelled of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. Jeremiah sat in one, while Emily gave her statement in another, with a victim advocate and female detective present. He'd insisted on recording everything. Every word Emily said, every detail of the threats she'd heard. Detective Maria Bowen handled Emily's interview with impressive patience. She was mid-40s, with kind eyes that had seen too much but hadn't hardened completely. Afterward, she joined Jeremiah in his room. "Your daughter's incredibly brave," Bowen said, sitting across from him. "Her statement is detailed and consistent. Schroeder and his associates are looking at serious charges: conspiracy to commit sexual assault of a minor, child endangerment, criminal threats. The DA's going to have a field day with this." "What about the drug investigation Ross mentioned?" Bowen raised an eyebrow. How do you know about that? I have resources. She studied him for a moment. The investigation is ongoing. This incident might actually help us move faster. Schroeder and his buddies are in custody now, and their bail's going to be astronomical given the charges. While they're locked up, we can move on the drug angle without worrying about them running. Good. There's something else. Bowen pulled out a file. When we searched the house, we found Schroeder's phone. He wasn't smart enough to lock it before we arrived. There are messages, photos. This guy's been grooming your daughter for weeks. Nothing physical happened, but the intent was clear. He's done this before. Jeremiah felt ice in his veins. Before, we're pulling records from his previous relationships. 3 other single mothers, all with teenage daughters. Same pattern. Befriend the mother, slowly isolate the daughter, make inappropriate comments, escalate. One case, the daughter ran away rather than report what was happening. Another, the mother broke up with him before he could act. Your daughter's the first one who had the courage to call for help. Because she knew I'd come. You save her life tonight, Mr. Phillips. Bowen closed the file. But I'll be honest with you. What happens next is complicated. Your ex-wife is going to face questions about her judgment, possibly charges related to child endangerment for leaving Emily alone with these men. CPS will be involved. This is going to get messy. I want full custody. I'm not a family court judge, but if I were, you'd have it. Your ex-wife enabled this situation, even if unintentionally. You stopped it. The courts will take that into account. Christine was in a different interview room, and Jeremiah could hear her voice through the walls, defensive at first, then breaking down as the reality crashed over her. She'd been played, manipulated by a predator who saw her as a doorway to her daughter. When they finally let everyone go at 2 a.m., Christine approached Jeremiah in the parking lot. Her eyes were red from crying, her face haggard. I didn't know, she whispered. Jeremiah, I swear I didn't know. You didn't want to know. I told you he was dangerous. I gave you proof. You chose to believe him over me, over Emily. He was so convincing. He had explanations for everything. He made me feel like I was being paranoid. That's what predators do, Christine. They gaslight, they manipulate. And you let him. She flinched. What happens now? Now, CPS investigates. Family court reviews custody. And I make damn sure Emily never has to be afraid in her own home again. You're taking her from me. You lost her the moment you chose Shane Schroeder over your daughter's safety. Jeremiah started to walk away, then stopped. I don't hate you, Christine, but I'll never trust you with Emily again. You're going to have to live with that. Emily stayed with Jeremiah that night, curled up on his couch under a Marine Corps blanket. He sat in a chair nearby, watching over her, his mind racing through everything that had happened. At dawn, Kyle showed up with coffee and breakfast sandwiches. How is she? Kyle asked quietly. Sleeping, finally. Nightmares, though. She woke up 3 times. She's going to need therapy. Already on it. I called a counselor who specializes in trauma. Former Navy psychologist. She's seeing Emily this afternoon. Kyle handed him a coffee. The guys are asking about her. Want to know if she needs anything. Jeremiah felt emotion tighten his throat. His unit. These hard men who'd seen combat, who'd killed enemies and watched brothers die, were worried about his teenage daughter. Tell them thanks. Tell them she's alive because of them. They know. They also know you'd have gone in alone if you had to. Damn right I would. Which is why we're never letting you go anywhere alone again. Kyle grinned. You're stuck with us now. All 22 of us are Emily's unofficial Uncle Battalion. Despite everything, Jeremiah smiled. The next week was a blur of legal meetings, counseling sessions, and damage control. CPS interviewed Emily extensively, but concluded that Jeremiah's home was safe and appropriate. Christine underwent her own investigation, and while she wasn't charged criminally, she was required to complete parenting classes and undergo a psychological evaluation. The family court hearing for emergency custody modification happened 8 days after the incident. Judge Marissa Russell, no relation to Ross, though the coincidence was noted, reviewed the case with a stern expression. Mr. Phillips, she said, your military record is exemplary. Your response to your daughter's emergency was appropriate and possibly life-saving. Ms. Cooley, Your judgment in this matter was catastrophically poor. I'm granting Mr. Phillips full physical custody of Emily, effective immediately. Ms. Cooley, you'll have supervised visitation once weekly until such time as the court determines you've addressed the issues that led to this situation." Christine didn't fight it. She signed the papers with shaking hands, her eyes never leaving Emily's face. Outside the courthouse, Emily hugged her mother. "I still love you, Mom, but I can't live with you anymore." "I know," Christine whispered. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." Shane Schroeder, Lowell Dodge, and Guy Herrera remained in custody, their bail set at $500,000 each, an impossible amount for men who dealt drugs and ran cons. While they sat in jail, Detective Bowen and her team worked the drug investigation. 2 weeks after the incident, Bowen called Jeremiah. "We moved on Schroeder's suppliers," she said. "Took down a distribution network operating out of Carlsbad. Seized $500,000 in drugs, arrested 14 people. Schroeder was the link we needed. Is that going to stick?" "Oh yeah. Federal charges now. DEA's involved. Schroeder's looking at 10 to 15 years minimum. More if we can prove his involvement in a larger conspiracy. Add the charges related to Emily, and he'll die in prison." Jeremiah should have felt satisfaction. He didn't. He felt empty. "He's not the only one," he said. "Bowen, you said he'd done this before. What about those other girls?" "We're reaching out to them, building a pattern of behavior case. If they're willing to testify, they'll need protection, support. We're working on it." After hanging up, Jeremiah sat in his office, staring at nothing. Emily was safe. Shane was going to prison. Justice, such as it was, would be served. But it didn't feel like enough. That night, Tommy Faulkner stopped by with a six-pack and concern in his eyes. "You look like shit," Tommy observed. "Thanks. Emily doing better?" "Getting there. She has nightmares. Doesn't like being alone. But she's tough. She'll come through this." "And you?" Jeremiah took a long pull of beer. "I keep thinking about what almost happened. If she hadn't called, if I'd been on deployment, if I'd hesitated for even a minute. But you didn't. You acted. You saved her. This time. But what about all the other girls Schroeder targeted? What about the ones who didn't have someone like me to call? The system's supposed to protect them, Tommy. It failed. The system's broken. We both know that. So what do we do about it?" Tommy was quiet for a moment. "What are you asking me?" "I'm asking if justice is enough. Schroeder goes to prison, eventually. But the guys above him, the network that enabled this, they're still out there. Still operating." "You're talking about something outside the law." "Maybe I am." Tommy set down his beer. "That's a dangerous road, Jeremiah. I walked dangerous roads in Helmand, in Fallujah, and a dozen other places where the rules didn't apply. Maybe it's time to walk one here." "For what?" "Revenge. For prevention. So no other girl has to go through what Emily did." Tommy looked at him for a long moment. "Then, if you decide to walk that road, you won't walk it alone." Chapter 5. Patterns in the Darkness. 3 weeks after the incident, Emily was settling into her new life on base. She'd enrolled in Oceanside High School, close enough that Jeremiah could drop her off and pick her up each day. The routine helped, predictability, safety, the knowledge that her father was always within reach. But Jeremiah couldn't settle. Every time he looked at his daughter, he thought about the other victims. The ones Bowen had mentioned. The ones Shane had successfully isolated, manipulated, hurt. He started researching, using the skills Tommy had taught him over years of intelligence work. Shane Schroeder's pattern emerged clearly. Meet single mothers at automotive dealerships where he worked, charm them, moving fast. Always women with teenage daughters. Always the same, slow escalation. There were 5 cases in the past 8 years. Margaret Haas in El Cajon. Her daughter, Taylor, ran away at 15 rather than tell her mother what Shane had done. Taylor spent 2 years homeless before Margaret found her. Johanna Khan in Chula Vista broke up with Shane after 3 months when she caught him watching her daughter sleep. Never reported it because she felt ashamed. Carrie Shepard in Escondido. Shane lived with them for 4 months before Carrie's daughter, Lee, tried to kill herself. Only then did Carrie learn about the inappropriate touching, the threats to hurt Carrie if Lee told. Fran McLaughlin in San Marcos. Shane groomed her daughter, Catherine, for 6 months before the girl broke down and told a school counselor. By then, Shane had already moved on. Christine, Cooley, and Oceanside, Emily. 5 families. 5 traumatized girls. And those were just the ones Jeremiah could find. How many others had there been? How many that never came to light? Detective Bowen was building a case, but it was slow. The earlier incidents were years old, evidence was scarce, and the victims were reluctant to come forward. Some had moved away, tried to escape the memories. Others simply wanted to forget. It's not enough for additional charges, Bowen admitted when Jeremiah pressed her. Shane will go down for what he did to Emily and the drug charges, but the other girls, their cases are too old, too circumstantial. So he gets away with it. He's going to prison, Mr. Phillips. That's not getting away with it. It's not enough. Bowen's eyes hardened. I understand your anger, but vigilante justice isn't justice. It's just more violence. Jeremiah said nothing, but he heard what she didn't say. Don't do anything stupid. Too late. He was already planning. The problem was simple. Shane Schroeder was a symptom, not the disease. He'd operated with impunity for years because he understood the system's weaknesses. Predators like him always did. They knew how to pick vulnerable targets, how to isolate them, how to exploit the gaps between law enforcement's jurisdiction and family court's authority. But Shane wasn't working entirely alone. The drug investigation had revealed a larger network: suppliers, distributors, money launderers. And Tommy's digging had uncovered something more interesting. Several of Shane's associates were also targeting single mothers and their children. Not sexually, necessarily, but running various scams and cons that exploited these families' vulnerability. It was an ecosystem of predators feeding off the weak. There's a guy named Leonard Cherry, Tommy told Jeremiah, over encrypted messaging. Shane's main supplier. Cherry runs a bigger operation: drugs, stolen goods, identity theft. Uses people like Shane as ground-level operators. Cherry's smart, though. Keeps his hands clean, layers of insulation between him and the street. Where is he? Carlsbad. Runs a legitimate import-export business. Detective Bowen's team knows about him, but can't touch him yet. He's the big fish they're trying to catch. Jeremiah studied the information Tommy sent. Leonard Cherry, 46, with a record stretching back to his 20s. Assault, fraud, racketeering. Always found a way to beat the charges or plea down to minor sentences. Smart, connected, and ruthless. What about his crew? Jeremiah asked. 2 main enforcers, Aaron Gardner and Dick Taylor. Both ex-military, dishonorably discharged. They handle the rough stuff when Cherry needs muscle. Ex-military. That complicated things. Gardner and Taylor would have training, would know how to fight back. Good. Jeremiah was looking forward to it. Kyle found Jeremiah in the armory, taking inventory of his personal weapons. You're planning something? Kyle said flatly. Just organizing. Bullshit. Kyle closed the door behind him. I've known you for 8 years. I can see it in your eyes. You're not sleeping, you're barely eating, and you're doing the thing where you go quiet and intense. Last time I saw you like this was right before Ramadi. Jeremiah set down the pistol he'd been cleaning. Shane Schroeder hurt 5 girls that we know of. Probably more. The man who enabled him, who protected him, is still out there. Still operating. Still hurting people. And the law is dealing with it. The law is slow. Cherry's still free, still running his operation. How many more kids get hurt while we wait for the system to work? So what's your plan? Kill him? That makes you a murderer. I don't want to kill him. Jeremiah's voice was cold. I want to dismantle his entire operation. Take away his money, his protection, his power. Leave him exposed so the law can finally touch him. Kyle was quiet for a moment. That's still illegal. I know. You could lose everything. Your career, your freedom, Emily. I know that too. Then why? Because Emily was lucky. She had me. The other girls didn't. Someone needs to stop this, Kyle. If not me, then who? Kyle sighed. If you're going to do this, you need to be smart about it. Real smart. No half measures. I know, and you'll need help. You can't take down a criminal network alone. Jeremiah looked up. I'm not asking either. You saved my life in Kandahar. Time to return the favor. Kyle pulled up a chair. Tell me the plan. The plan took shape over the next week. Ross Russell joined after Kyle brought him in, and Tommy was already committed. Thomas Faulkner provided intelligence, identifying Cherry's key vulnerabilities, his cash flow, his distribution network, his corrupt connections. Cherry moves money through a series of shell companies, Tommy explained, spreading documents across Jeremiah's kitchen table. But the actual cash, the dirty money, gets laundered through a check-cashing business in Carlsbad. They've got safes, probably $500,000 in cash on site at any given time. Security? Ross asked. Cameras, alarm system, but nothing sophisticated. 2 armed guards at night, both hired through a legitimate security company. Cherry doesn't want to draw attention by having obvious muscle around. What about his enforcers, Gardner and Taylor? They don't live on site. Cherry keeps them close, but not too close. Maintains the appearance of legitimacy. Jeremiah studied the building schematics Tommy had obtained. If we hit the money, we hurt Cherry badly. But it's not enough to take him down completely. No, Kyle agreed. But it gets his attention, forces him to react. And when people react in panic, they make mistakes. We need leverage, Ross said. Something that makes Cherry vulnerable to the law. Evidence, Tommy said. Real, hard evidence linking him directly to criminal activity. The kind that even his lawyers can't make disappear. Where would that evidence be? Tommy smiled grimly. Cherry's careful, but he's also arrogant. Keeps records, insurance, he calls it. Leverage on his associates in case they turn on him. Those records would be in his office, probably encrypted, definitely secured. So we need 2 operations, Jeremiah said. One to hit the money, draw Cherry out. Another to get into his office and extract the evidence. That's risky, Kyle warned. 2 operations means twice the exposure, twice the chance of something going wrong. I know, but if we do this, we do it right. We don't just hurt Cherry, we end him. The planning became more detailed. Jeremiah divided his team. Kyle and Ross would hit the cash business, creating chaos and drawing Cherry's attention. Tommy would provide intelligence support and coordination. Jeremiah would go after Cherry's office personally. What about Gardner and Taylor? Ross asked. They'll respond to the cash hit. Could be a problem. Let them respond, Kyle said. We'll be in and out before they arrive. And if they do show up, he patted his sidearm. We're not exactly unprepared. Rules of engagement? Tommy asked. Jeremiah's voice was flat. No killing unless absolutely necessary for self-defense. We're not murderers, but anyone who stands between us and completing the mission goes down hard. Understood? Everyone nodded. We move in 3 days, Jeremiah said. Friday night. Cherry usually works late, and his security is lightest then. Tommy, I need everything you can get on his office layout, alarm systems, and schedule. Already working on it. Ross, Kyle, map out entry and exit routes for the cash business. Plan for complications. On it. And, gentlemen, Jeremiah looked at each of them. After this, there's no going back. If we do this and get caught, we all go down. Anyone want out? Now's the time. Nobody moved. All right then. Jeremiah allowed himself a grim smile. Let's go hunting. Chapter 6, The Money Run. Friday night arrived cold and clear. Jeremiah stood in the parking lot of a closed strip mall, watching his team make final preparations. Kyle and Ross checked their equipment methodically. Black clothing, tactical gloves, suppressed firearms, breaching tools. They looked like the operators they were, moving with practiced efficiency. Comms check, Tommy said from his position in a surveillance van parked 3 blocks away. His voice came through clearly on their encrypted radio system. Lima 1, check, Kyle responded. Lima 2, check, Ross confirmed. Alpha 1, check, Jeremiah said. Overwatch as you all. Target building shows 2 security guards on duty, both in the main office. Cherry's vehicle is in his parking spot at the office complex. Gardner and Taylor are at a bar in Encinitas. We're monitoring them. Time to move, Jeremiah said. The check cashing business sat in a rundown commercial district, squeezed between a laundromat and a closed pawn shop. During the day, it served legitimate customers, but at night it became something else, a counting house for Cherry's dirty money. Kyle and Ross approached from different angles, using shadows and blind spots to avoid the security cameras Tommy had identified. The alarm system was sophisticated but not military-grade. Ross produced a bypass device, technically illegal, practically invaluable, and attached it to the external junction box. "Alarms looped," Ross whispered. "System thinks everything's normal." They moved to the rear entrance. Kyle examined the lock, then pulled out a slim pick set. 30 seconds later, the door opened silently. Inside, the smell of old coffee and paper money. They moved through the back hallway, clearing rooms with practiced precision. The building was small: main customer area, office, and back room where the real business happened. The security guards were watching a movie in the office, feet up, completely complacent. They never saw Kyle and Ross coming. 2 suppressed shots each, beanbag rounds, non-lethal but devastating. The guards went down hard, unconscious before they hit the floor. "Targets neutralized," Kyle reported. "Searching for the safes." "Back room, northwest corner," Tommy directed. "Cherry has 2 safes. One's a decoy. The real one is built into the floor under the desk." They found it exactly where Tommy said. The safe was serious, a Stillwater 24 gun safe, probably weighing 500 pounds, with a combination lock that would take hours to crack properly. Ross pulled out a different tool, a thermal lance. "This is going to be loud." "Do it fast," Jeremiah said over the radio. He was 3 miles away, watching Cherry's office building. "I'm moving on the office in 2 minutes." Ross fired up the thermal lance. The cutting torch burned at over 5,000 degrees, eating through the safe steel like butter. Sparks flew, smoke filled the room, and the noise was tremendous, but it worked. 3 minutes later, the safe door swung open. Inside, stacks of cash, rubber-banded and organized. "A lot of cash." "Jackpot," Kyle breathed. "Tommy, you were right. Got to be $500,000 here." "Take it all," Jeremiah ordered. "Load it in the vehicle. You've got maybe 5 minutes before someone responds to the noise." Jeremiah approached Cherry's office building from the south, staying in shadow. The office complex was mostly empty at 11 p.m., a few cars in the lot, a few lights on, but nothing unusual. Cherry's import-export business occupied the entire 3rd floor. Tommy had mapped it obsessively. Cherry's private office, conference room, record storage, and a reception area. Security was lighter here than at the cash business. Cherry relied on subtlety at the office, brutality on the street. Jeremiah entered through a service entrance Tommy had identified, bypassing the front security cameras. The alarm system yielded to Tommy's bypass codes, and Jeremiah was inside within 90 seconds. "Alpha 1 is in," he reported quietly. "Copy that," Tommy responded. Cherry's in his office, door closed. No movement on other floors. Gardner and Taylor just left the bar. They're heading toward the cash business. "How long until they arrive there?" 12 minutes, give or take." "Kyle, Ross, you copy that." "We're loading the last of it now," Kyle said, strain evident in his voice. 2 more minutes, and we're mobile." "Make it 1 minute." Jeremiah moved through the darkened office complex like a ghost. Years of practice in far more dangerous environments made this almost easy. He reached Cherry's office and paused outside the door, listening. Cherry was on the phone, his voice carrying through the walls. "I don't care what your excuse is. The shipment was supposed to arrive yesterday. Get it sorted or find a new supplier." Jeremiah tested the door. Locked, but it was an interior office lock, designed for privacy, not security. He slipped a pick into the mechanism and felt the tumblers give way. Cherry was at his desk, back to the door, still arguing on the phone. He was a big man, 6'2", maybe 250 pounds, with the build of someone who'd been strong once, but had let it go soft. His desk was immaculate, laptop open, papers organized precisely. Jeremiah waited for Cherry to hang up, then stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The soft click of the door made Cherry spin around. His face went from annoyance to confusion to fear in rapid succession. "Who the hell are you?" Cherry's hand moved toward a desk drawer. "Don't." Jeremiah's voice was soft but absolute. His hand rested on the holstered weapon at his side, not quite drawing it but making the threat clear. "Hands where I can see them." Cherry raised his hands slowly. His fear was being replaced by calculation. Jeremiah could see it happening, the predator's mind working through scenarios. You're making a mistake, Cherry said. Do you have any idea who I am? What I can do to you? I know exactly who you are, Leonard. You're a predator who preys on vulnerable families. You enable men like Shane Schroeder. You profit from other people's misery. Recognition flickered across Cherry's face. You're the military guy, the one who messed up my Oceanside operation. That's right. I'm Jeremiah Phillips, and I'm here to shut you down. You think you could just walk in here and... Your cash business is being robbed right now. $500,000 gone. Your enforcers are about to arrive at an empty building. And I'm here for something more valuable than money. Cherry's composure cracked. What? Your insurance files. The records you keep on your associates. All the evidence you've been collecting, thinking it makes you safe. You'll never find them. I don't have to find them. You're going to give them to me. Cherry laughed, but it was forced. Or what? Jeremiah pulled out his phone and showed Cherry a photo. The inside of the safe, the money being loaded into bags. Or I'll make sure everyone knows you let this happen. How long do you think your associates will trust you after they find out $500,000 just disappeared? How long before they start wondering if you stole it yourself? The blood drained from Cherry's face. You can't. Already did. Now the files. You have 30 seconds before I walk out of here and make sure this goes sideways for you in every possible way. Cherry's hands trembled as he opened the laptop, typed in a password, and navigated to an encrypted folder. These files go public, people die. My people, your people, doesn't matter. Good thing they're not going public then. They're going to the DEA, the FBI, and Detective Maria Bowen at Oceanside PD. Let the law sort through your insurance policy. You're insane. You think this makes you a hero? No. It makes me a father who's had enough. Jeremiah plugged in a USB drive. Download everything. Cherry hesitated, then complied. The progress bar crept across the screen, files transferring, damning evidence copying over. Financial records, names, addresses, text conversations, photographs. Everything Cherry had collected over years of operating in the shadows. Done, Cherry said finally. Jeremiah pulled the drive, pocketed it. Now the hard drive. What? Take out. I'm not leaving any copies behind. Cherry's jaw tightened, but he obeyed, extracting the hard drive and handing it over. Jeremiah dropped it on the floor and stomped it into pieces. Alpha 1 to all units, he said into his radio. Package acquired. Exfil in 2 minutes. Lima team is clear, Kyle responded. En route to Rally Point. Overwatch shows Gardner and Taylor at the cash business, Tommy added. They're inside now. Not happy. Jeremiah looked at Cherry. You're going to sit here for the next 10 minutes. Don't call anyone. Don't move. Because if you do, I'll make sure the files go to the press instead of law enforcement. Your criminal empire will eat itself alive. This isn't over, Cherry snarled. You're right about that. But it's over for you. Jeremiah headed for the door. Enjoy the time you have left. It's not much. Chapter 7. The Trap Closes. Detective Bowen's phone rang at 7 a.m. Saturday morning. She answered groggily, not recognizing the number. Detective, this is Jeremiah Phillips. She sat up, instantly awake. Mr. Phillips, what can I do for you? Check your office email. I've sent you something important. What kind of something? Evidence. Everything you need to take down Leonard Cherry's operation. Financial records, communications, witness testimony, connections to over 30 criminal enterprises. It's all there. Bowen was already moving, pulling on clothes. Where did you get this? Does it matter? It matters if I can't use in court. Chain of custody, Mr. Phillips. If this evidence was obtained illegally. It was obtained by a concerned citizen who stumbled across it. An anonymous tip, detective. That's all you need to know. Jeremiah. Her voice hardened. What did you do? I protected my daughter and made sure the man who enabled her attacker can't hurt anyone else. The rest is up to you. He hung up. Bowen reached her office in 30 minutes, logged in, and opened the email. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the files. This wasn't just evidence, it was a treasure trove. Years of criminal activity, meticulously documented. She called her lieutenant immediately. Sir, we need to move on Leonard Cherry right now. I've got enough here to charge him with RICO violations, drug trafficking, money laundering, and about 20 other felonies. Where did this come from? Anonymous tip. Maria, you know better than to. Sir, I've been investigating Cherry for 8 months. Everything in these files corroborates intelligence we already had. This just fills in the gaps and provides documentation. We can verify it independently. A pause. How fast can you verify? Give me 4 hours. Then we move. Do it. By noon, Bowen had assembled a task force. DEA agents, FBI, local SWAT. They hit Cherry's office and both his residences simultaneously, executing search warrants that Bowen had gotten a judge to sign in record time. Cherry was arrested without incident, found at his home in Carlsbad. His enforcers, Gardner and Taylor, were picked up at the ransack cash business, still trying to figure out what had happened to $500,000. The raids made the local news by evening. Major drug operation dismantled, the headlines read. Leonard Cherry's carefully constructed world was collapsing in spectacular fashion. Jeremiah watched the news from his apartment with Emily beside him. She'd been quiet since the rescue, processing trauma with her therapist, but tonight she seemed more present. "Is that the man who helped Shane?" she asked, pointing at Cherry's perp walk on TV. "Yes." "Will he go to prison?" "For a very long time." Emily nodded slowly. "Good. He can't hurt anyone else then." "No, he can't." But Jeremiah's work wasn't done. Cherry's arrest had created a power vacuum, and nature, especially criminal nature, abhorred a vacuum. With Cherry gone, his associates were scrambling, trying to figure out what had happened to the money, who had betrayed them, whether the evidence had their names on it. Most importantly, Shane Schroeder was still in jail, awaiting trial. And Jeremiah wanted to make sure that trial went exactly as planned. Monday morning, Jeremiah visited the district attorney's office. He'd made an appointment with the lead prosecutor on Shane's case, a woman named April Curry, known for her aggressive pursuit of sex offenders. Curry was in her mid-30s, with intense eyes and a reputation for never losing cases she cared about. She listened as Jeremiah laid out everything he'd found on Shane's previous victims. "I've compiled statements from 4 other girls Shane targeted," Jeremiah said, sliding a folder across her desk. "Margaret Haas's daughter Taylor, Johanna Kahn's daughter, Carrie Shepard's daughter Lee, and Fran McLaughlin's daughter Catherine. They're willing to testify about Shane's pattern of behavior." Curry's eyes gleamed as she reviewed the documents. "This is gold. Pattern evidence like this makes Shane's intent undeniable. But you know the defense will fight to keep it out. Let them fight. Make sure the jury hears about every girl he hurt. Make sure they understand exactly what kind of predator Shane Schroeder is." "I will. But Mr. Phillips, I have to ask, how did you get all this information? Some of these girls never made formal reports." "I talked to them. I explained that their stories could help protect other children. They agreed to come forward. You did detective work that law enforcement should have done." "I did what I had to do." Shane operated for years, hurting vulnerable girls while the system failed to stop him. Someone needed to connect the dots. Curry leaned back. "I'm not complaining. You've handed me a case I can prosecute effectively. Shane Schroeder is going to spend decades in prison, but you've also put yourself at risk. Defense counsel will paint you as a vigilante father with an axe to grind. Let them. Everything I found is true and verifiable. Shane hurt my daughter and 4 others that we know of. If the jury wants to see me as a father who fought to protect children, I'm fine with that." "All right," Curry smiled grimly. "Let's bury this bastard." The trial began 6 weeks later. Shane's defense attorney, a slick, expensive lawyer named Rick McDowell, tried every trick to get the case dismissed or the evidence suppressed. But April Curry was better. She started with Emily's testimony. Emily took the stand with quiet courage, describing the phone call, the threats, the terror of being trapped in her room while drunken men discussed assaulting her. The jury was visibly disturbed. Then Curry brought forward the other victims, one by one. Taylor Haas described running away to escape Shane. Lee Shepard talked about her suicide attempt and the guilt she still carried. Catherine McLaughlin explained the nightmares that still haunted her. By the 3rd day of testimony, several jurors were crying. Shane sat at the defense table, looking smaller than he actually was, trying to seem sympathetic. But there was no hiding from the accumulated weight of testimony. Jeremiah attended every day, sitting in the gallery where Shane could see him. Each time Shane glanced back, Jeremiah met his eyes with cold, unwavering intensity. A promise. I'm here. I'm watching. You'll never escape what you did. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, Judge Russell gave Shane the maximum. 15 years for the crimes against Emily, plus additional time for each of the other victims who testified. Total, 43 years in prison. Mr. Schroeder, the judge said coldly, you are a predator who targeted vulnerable children with calculation and malice. You showed no remorse, no conscience, no humanity. I hope you spend every day of your sentence understanding the lives you destroyed and the pain you caused. This court has no sympathy for you. Shane was led away in shackles. He looked back once, finding Jeremiah in the crowd. Whatever he saw in Jeremiah's face made him blanch and turn away quickly. Outside the courthouse, the victims' families gathered. Margaret Haas pulled Jeremiah aside, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, she whispered. When you called, when you asked Taylor to testify, she was terrified. But you promised her it would matter, that her story would help protect other girls. And it did. Your daughter's incredibly brave, Jeremiah said. All of them are. They learned from Emily. They saw her courage and found their own. Margaret squeezed his hand. You did more than save your daughter. You saved all of them. That night, Jeremiah took Emily to dinner at her favorite restaurant. She seemed lighter. The weight of testimony and confrontation finally lifted. Is it really over? She asked over dessert. The trial is. Shane's going to prison for a very long time. And the other man? Cherry. His trial is next month. But he's not getting out either. Emily nodded, then looked at her father. You did a lot to make this happen. More than just testifying. Jeremiah chose his words carefully. I did what I needed to do to protect you and make sure justice was served. Did you break the law? He met her eyes. Would it change how you feel about me if I did? Emily thought about it. No. You saved my life, Dad. Whatever you had to do to make sure Shane and his friends couldn't hurt anyone else. I'm glad you did it. Sweetheart, that doesn't mean what I did was necessarily right. The law exists for a reason. The law failed, though. Shane hurt other girls before me, and the law didn't stop him. You did. Sometimes protecting the people we love means making hard choices. Choices that have consequences. Like losing your career. Jeremiah raised an eyebrow. What makes you think I'd lose my career? I'm 14, not stupid. I know you did things you're not supposed to do. Kyle and Ross and Thomas helped you. If anyone finds out, then we deal with it. But Emily, I want you to understand something. He reached across the table, taking her hand. I would do it again. Every single thing, every risk, every choice. Because you're my daughter, and nothing in this world matters more than keeping you safe. Emily's eyes filled with tears. I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. Always. Chapter 8. Consequences and Complications. The knock on Jeremiah's door came at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after Shane's sentencing. He opened it to find Detective Bowen standing there with 2 FBI agents and a grim expression. Mr. Phillips, we need to talk. Jeremiah stepped aside, letting them in. Emily was still asleep. He'd make sure this conversation happened without her overhearing. They sat in his small living room, the tension thick. Bowen spoke first. The evidence I received against Leonard Cherry. The anonymous tip. The FBI has been analyzing it, tracing its origins. And Jeremiah kept his voice neutral. And they found anomalies. The files were accessed from Cherry's computer at a specific time, 11:37 p.m. on the night of September 18th. Security footage from Cherry's building shows no one entering or leaving around that time, but the system has a 15-minute gap in the recordings. Convenient. Maybe Cherry gave someone the files himself. Maybe he was trying to make a deal. That's what we thought at first, one of the FBI agents said. He was young, intense, with the zealous energy of someone building a career. But Cherry's been denying it from day one. Says his office was broken into, his computer accessed without his knowledge. Sounds like a criminal trying to avoid responsibility for his actions. Probably, Bowen said. Except there's more. That same night, Cherry's cash business was robbed. $500,000 gone. 2 security guards were assaulted with non-lethal weapons. The sophistication of the operation suggests military training. Jeremiah said nothing. We also found fiber evidence at both scenes, the other FBI agent said. She was older, more seasoned, watching Jeremiah with calculating eyes. Fabric consistent with military-grade tactical clothing. And at the cash business, we found a single fingerprint on one of the shell casings from a beanbag round. Partial print, not enough for a match by itself, but interesting. Interesting how? Because it's consistent with someone who has military experience, who knows how to operate in high-stress environments, who would have access to specialized equipment. Bowen leaned forward. Jeremiah, I'm going to be direct. We think you and members of your unit conducted an illegal operation against Leonard Cherry's businesses. We think you stole the evidence you gave me. And we think you committed multiple felonies in the process. Can you prove any of that? Not yet, the older FBI agent admitted. But we're building a case. We've interviewed your unit members, checked their alibis, reviewed their movements. So far, everyone's story checks out, but maybe a little too perfectly. Sounds like you have a theory, but no evidence. Evidence can be developed. The younger agent's voice had an edge. We're prepared to offer you a deal, Mr. Phillips. Full cooperation. Tell us everything that happened, and we'll recommend reduced charges. Probation instead of prison time. That's generous, considering you just admitted you have no proof I did anything wrong. We'll get the proof, the agent said. It's just a question of time. And when we do, you won't like the outcome. You're looking at breaking and entering, assault, theft, interfering with a federal investigation. That's decades in prison. Jeremiah let the silence stretch. Then, am I under arrest? No, Bowen said. Not yet. But I'm asking you, as someone who respects what you did for your daughter, don't make this worse. If you did what we think you did, own it. Take the deal. Detective, I appreciate the warning, but I haven't done anything wrong. If you want to waste time investigating me instead of prosecuting the actual criminals you arrested, that's your choice. But I'm not confessing to crimes I didn't commit. The agents exchanged glances. The older one stood. We'll be in touch, Mr. Phillips. Think carefully about your next moves. After they left, Jeremiah stood at the window, watching their car drive away. This was the complication he'd anticipated, but hoped to avoid. The law didn't just go after criminals. Sometimes it came for people who took justice into their own hands. He needed to talk to his team. Kyle, Ross, and Tommy met him at a secure location off base, a storage unit they'd rented under a false name. The 4 men stood in the empty metal room, their voices echoing off the walls. They're building a case, Jeremiah said. Nothing solid yet, but they're digging. We knew this was possible, Ross said calmly. We planned for it. Did we plan well enough? Tommy asked. Because if they flip one of us, we all go down. No one's flipping, Kyle said sharply. We all knew the risks. We all agreed. I'm not questioning anyone's resolve, Tommy clarified. I'm saying we need to be prepared for the pressure. FBI's good at finding cracks and exploiting them. Then we don't give them cracks, Jeremiah said. Our stories stay consistent. We were all accounted for that night. Ross was at home with his wife. Kyle was at a bar with witnesses. Tommy was at a movie. And I was on base, signed into my quarters at 2,100 hours. Alibis only hold up under light scrutiny, Ross warned. If they push hard, start pulling security footage, checking cell tower records, they won't find anything. We were careful. No phones during the operation, cash-only transactions, vehicles rented under false identities. We did this right. What about the evidence we turned over? Kyle asked. If they trace how those files were accessed. The files show Cherry's own negligence. He kept years of criminal evidence on an unsecured laptop. Someone could have accessed it remotely, could have paid off one of his employees, could have gotten it a dozen different ways. They can't prove it was us unless we admit it. So we stay silent, Tommy said. We stay silent, Jeremiah confirmed. No matter what pressure they bring, no matter what deals they offer. We did what we did because it was necessary, and we protect each other now. But the FBI wasn't done. Over the next month, the pressure intensified. Agents interviewed Emily, asking if her father had seemed different around the time of the robbery, if he'd been gone unusual hours, if he'd mentioned anything about Cherry. Emily, smart, brave Emily, gave them nothing. My dad works long hours. He's a Marine. I don't know what he does every minute. They interviewed Christine, who'd completed her court-ordered therapy and was slowly rebuilding her relationship with Emily through supervised visits. She had no useful information. Jeremiah had kept her completely separate from his plans. They even tracked down Margaret Haas and the other victims' families, looking for connections, for signs that Jeremiah had done more than just encourage testimony. Nothing stuck. Every lead dead-ended. Every witness was consistent. Every alibi held. But Jeremiah knew the investigation wasn't over. The FBI had resources, patience, and institutional stubbornness. They'd keep digging until they either found something or got reassigned to more pressing cases. The question was, which would happen first? The answer came from an unexpected direction. 6 weeks after the initial FBI visit, Leonard Cherry's trial began. April Curry had been tapped to co-prosecute alongside federal attorneys, and the evidence was overwhelming. But during the trial, something broke. Aaron Gardner, one of Cherry's enforcers, took a plea deal. In exchange for reduced charges, he agreed to testify about Cherry's operations, including information about the robbery. Cherry was certain it was an inside job, Gardner testified. He thought someone in his organization betrayed him. But then he got paranoid, started thinking it was the military guy. The father of that girl, Shane, threatened. Did Mr. Cherry have proof of that? The prosecutor asked. No, just suspicion. But Cherry wanted revenge. He talked about going after Phillips, hurting his daughter to make him pay. The courtroom erupted. The judge called for order, but the damage was done. Cherry's defense attorney tried to walk it back, but the jury had heard enough. More importantly, so had Detective Bowen. She showed up at Jeremiah's apartment that evening, alone this time. I shouldn't be here, she said without preamble. What I'm about to tell you could end my career. Then don't tell me. Cherry planned to hurt Emily. We found communications, plans. He was going to wait until after his trial, but he was serious. Jeremiah felt ice in his chest. When did you learn this? Gardner's testimony today opened new investigative avenues. We searched Cherry's property again, found encrypted messages on a burner phone. Bowen's expression was troubled. If you hadn't moved when you did, if you hadn't taken down Cherry's operation, I think Emily would have been in real danger. You're telling me I should feel justified. I'm telling you that sometimes the law is too slow. Sometimes the system fails. And sometimes people like you have to do what we can't. She pulled out a folder. The FBI's investigation into the robbery is being closed. Lack of evidence, insufficient leads, better allocation of resources to other cases. Just like that, the special agent in charge got a call from someone high up. I don't know who, don't want to know, but someone with authority made the call that prosecuting you wasn't in the public interest, that you saved lives, prevented further crimes, and that pursuing charges would be a waste of taxpayer money. Jeremiah stared at her. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand something. You got away with it. This time. But there are people watching you now. If you ever step over that line again, if you ever take the law into your own hands, you won't be so lucky. The next time, you go to prison. Are we clear? Crystal. Bowen turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm glad you did it. Emily's safe because of you. Those other girls got justice because of you. Cherry's in prison because of you. The world's a better place. But don't do it again. I won't have to. The people who threatened my daughter are gone. Good. She opened the door. Take care of that girl, Jeremiah. She's special. I know. Chapter 9, New Beginning. Leonard Cherry was convicted on all federal charges and sentenced to 48 years in prison without possibility of parole. His criminal network collapsed completely. Dozens of associates arrested as the evidence Jeremiah had provided led to a cascade of investigations and prosecutions. Shane Schroeder served 2 years in general population before another inmate. A father whose own daughter had been molested found out why Shane was there. Shane ended up in solitary protective custody, where he'd spend the rest of his sentence alone with his thoughts. By all accounts, he wasn't handling it well. Aaron Gardner and Dick Taylor both took plea deals rather than face trial. Gardner got 8 years, Taylor got 12. Lowell Dodge and Guy Herrera, Shane's drinking buddies who participated in the threats against Emily, received 10 years each for child endangerment and conspiracy. The legal system, slow as it was, had worked in the end, but it had needed a push, a catalyst, someone willing to risk everything to make sure justice actually happened. 6 months after the trial, Jeremiah stood on the beach at Sunset Cliffs, watching Emily laugh with some new friends she'd made at school. She'd adjusted remarkably well, working through her trauma with a skilled therapist and finding strength she hadn't known she had. Kyle joined him, both men in civilian clothes, enjoying a rare day off. "She looks good," Kyle observed. "She's getting there. Still has nightmares sometimes. But she's healing. And you?" Jeremiah considered the question. "I'm okay. Knowing Emily's safe, knowing the people who threaten her can't hurt anyone else, that helps." The FBI really dropped the investigation? Completely. Someone high up made a call. I don't know who, and I'm not asking. Kyle smiled slightly. Probably someone with stars on their collar who appreciates Marines protecting their families. Probably. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Kyle asked, "Any regrets? About what we did?" "No. I'd do it again in a heartbeat." Jeremiah paused. "But I'm grateful it worked. If we'd been caught, Emily would have lost both parents, Christine to her own poor judgment, me to prison. We weren't caught because we were smart, because we planned well, and because we had each other's backs. That's what Marines do." "Semper Fi," Jeremiah said quietly. Semper Fi. The following week, Jeremiah received an unexpected visitor, Christine. She'd completed her court-ordered therapy and parenting classes, and her supervised visits with Emily had been going well. But this visit wasn't about Emily. "I need to apologize," Christine said, sitting across from Jeremiah in his living room. "Really apologize, not the half-hearted attempts I made before." "Okay. I almost got our daughter assaulted. Worse, because I was lonely and desperate, and I chose to believe a charming predator over my own instincts. Over your warnings. Over Emily's discomfort." Her voice cracked. "I've spent 6 months in therapy trying to understand how I could have been so blind, so selfish." "What did you learn?" "That I was trying to fill a void. When we divorced, I felt like I'd failed at the one thing I was supposed to be good at, being a wife and mother. Shame made me feel wanted, valued. And I clung to that feeling even when evidence showed he was dangerous." "You weren't the only one he fooled, Christine. There were other women, other mothers. He was good at what he did. That doesn't excuse my responsibility. I'm Emily's mother. Protecting her should have been my first priority. Instead, I prioritized my own emotional needs." She looked at Jeremiah with red eyes. "You were a better parent from 1,000 miles away than I was living with her every day. That's something I have to live with." Jeremiah was quiet for a moment. "Emily loves you. She still wants a relationship with you. But it has to be on her terms now." "I know, and I'm grateful she's even willing to see me." Christine wiped her eyes. "I heard about Cherry's trial, about the testimony that he was planning to hurt Emily." "Yeah. Did you?" She stopped herself. "Never mind. I don't want to know. But if you did something illegal to protect her, I'm glad. She's alive and safe because of you. She's alive and safe because I had the resources and training to respond when she called. Most parents don't have that. Most kids in danger don't get rescued." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we were lucky. But there are thousands of kids who aren't. Thousands of families being victimized by predators while the system moves too slowly or not at all. So what do we do?" "I'm not sure yet, but I've been thinking about it." That night, Jeremiah sat at his kitchen table with Tommy, papers spread between them. "You're serious about this?" Tommy asked. "Completely. There's a gap between what law enforcement can do legally and what needs to be done to protect vulnerable people. We proved that with Cherry. So you want to do what? Become vigilantes? Start taking down criminals the law can't touch. Not vigilantes. Consultants. People who can investigate when families can't afford private investigators. Who can gather evidence when the police don't have resources. Who can intervene when the system moves too slowly. That's still legally questionable, but it's necessary." Jeremiah pulled out a folder. "I've been researching nonprofit structures. We could set up an organization, call it Safe Harbor or something similar. staffed by veterans with investigative and protection experience, funded by donations and grants, operating within the law, but pushing its boundaries when needed. Tommy studied the documents. This is ambitious. You'd need significant funding, legal consultation, probably former law enforcement advisors. I know people. Kyle's interested, Ross too. You'd be vital for the intelligence side. We could help families like Margaret Haas, who didn't know how to protect their daughters from predators. We could identify threats before they escalate. It could work, Tommy admitted, but it's risky. You'd be under constant scrutiny. I don't care. Emily's safe now, but there are other Emilys out there. Other families being exploited. If we can help even a few of them, it's worth it. Tommy smiled slowly. You know what? Count me in. When do we start? As soon as we can get the paperwork filed. 3 months later, Safe Harbor officially launched. The nonprofit's mission was clear. Provide investigative and protective services to families facing threats from predators, abusers, and criminals when traditional law enforcement couldn't move fast enough. The organization operated carefully within legal boundaries. Most of the time, they gathered evidence, built cases, and turned them over to authorities. But when the law failed, when time was critical, when a child was in immediate danger, they were prepared to do more. Their first case came from a woman named Lisa Childs, whose 13-year-old daughter was being stalked by an online predator. The man had been grooming her for months, building trust, planning to lure her away. Police knew about it, but couldn't act until he actually attempted something criminal. Safe Harbor investigated, identified the predator, and provided evidence to law enforcement that resulted in an arrest before he could hurt Lisa's daughter. In gratitude, Lisa told other parents about the organization. Word spread. Within a year, Safe Harbor had helped protect 17 children, assisted in the prosecution of 8 predators, and disrupted 3 criminal operations targeting vulnerable families. It wasn't enough. There were always more victims, more predators, more families in need. But it was something, and it was growing. 2 years after Emily's rescue, Jeremiah stood in Safe Harbor's small office, looking at the wall of photos, families they'd helped, kids they'd saved. Emily stood beside him, now 16 and stronger than ever. You did this because of me, she said softly. I did this because of all of us. You, the other girls, Shane hurt, every family that suffers because bad people exploit the system's weaknesses. Are you happy, Dad? Jeremiah considered the question. He'd left active duty with the Marines, taking an honorable retirement to focus on Safe Harbor. He'd sacrificed his military career, the only life he'd known, for 2 decades. He worked longer hours now than he ever had in the Corps, often for no pay, putting himself at legal risk constantly. But when he looked at Emily, healthy, confident, preparing for college applications, and thinking about her future, he knew the answer. Yeah, kiddo, I'm happy. I'm doing what I was meant to do. Protecting people. Protecting people, he agreed. One family at a time. Emily hugged him. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you too. You're the bravest person I know. I learned from the best. That evening, Kyle, Ross, and Tommy joined Jeremiah for dinner, a monthly tradition they'd established. They ate pizza, drank beer, and talked about current cases, new threats, and ways to expand Safe Harbor's reach. We got a call from a woman in Arizona, Ross said. Her ex-husband is part of a militia group making threats. Local cops are sympathetic to the militia, won't investigate. We don't operate in Arizona, Jeremiah pointed out. Not yet, Kyle said, but maybe we should. Safe Harbor could expand, set up regional offices. That requires funding we don't have. What if we had a fundraiser? Tommy suggested. Tell Safe Harbor's story. How we got started, what we've accomplished. People respond to narratives. People also respond to results, Ross added. Every family we help tells 10 more families. Word of mouth is powerful. Jeremiah nodded slowly. Okay, let's explore expansion. But carefully. We can't lose sight of our mission, protecting kids and families. Everything else is secondary. Agreed, they said in unison. Later that night, alone in his apartment, Jeremiah received a text from an unknown number. Thank you for what you do. My daughter is safe because of your organization. We'll never forget. It was the 3rd such message that week. Families they'd helped, expressing gratitude anonymously, afraid to associate publicly with an organization that sometimes operated in moral gray areas. Jeremiah saved the message, adding it to a folder of similar texts and emails. On hard days, when the work felt overwhelming, when he questioned whether any of it mattered, he'd read through them. Every life saved, every family protected, every predator stopped. It mattered. He looked at a photo on his desk. Emily at her last birthday, blowing out candles, surrounded by friends and happiness. The girl who'd whispered desperately into a phone, "Dad, I need help," was gone. In her place was a young woman who knew her father would always come for her, no matter what. And if other families needed that same certainty, that same protection, Safe Harbor would be there. Always. Epilogue. 5 years after that terrifying phone call, Emily Phillips graduated from UC San Diego with a degree in social work. During her valedictory speech, she spoke about resilience, about finding strength in trauma, about the importance of protecting vulnerable people. She mentioned Safe Harbor, though not by name, and the work her father did to help families in crisis. She called on her fellow graduates to find their own ways to make the world safer, kinder, more just. Jeremiah watched from the audience, surrounded by Kyle, Ross, Tommy, and Christine, who'd rebuilt her relationship with Emily slowly and earned back some measure of trust. His daughter had survived, thrived, and found purpose in her trauma. She was going to be okay. Better than okay. She was going to be extraordinary. After the ceremony, as Emily posed for photos with friends, Jeremiah's phone buzzed. A new case, a mother in San Marcos whose daughter was being groomed by her basketball coach. Emily saw him, check the phone, saw his expression change to focused intensity. "You have to go," she said, understanding immediately. "I do. But Emily—" "I know, Dad. Go. Someone needs you." She kissed his cheek. "Save them like you saved me." Jeremiah hugged his daughter one more time, then headed for his truck. Kyle, Ross, and Tommy fell in beside him, already pulling up case details on their phones, already planning. They had work to do, families to protect, predators to stop. It was what they did, what they would always do, because somewhere a child was in danger. And unlike so many others, this child would be saved. Not because the system worked, but because someone cared enough to make it work. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.